Apologies, Will.
No, we've had no apologies, Chair.
Is everybody present? Apologies, Will.
No, Chair, we're still missing Councillor Keel.
No, we've had no apologies, Chair.
Councillor...
Is everybody present? Apologies, Will.
No, Chair, we're still missing Councillor Keel.
If Joe had no apologies, Chair.
Councillor...
During the meeting, we'll let them in.
Is everybody present? Apologies, Will.
I know Councillor King definitely is intending to
If Joe had no apologies, Chair. During the meeting, we'll let them in.
We'll give it a few more moments. Apologies, Will.
I know Councillor King definitely is intending
During the meeting, we'll let them in.
We'll give it a few more moments.
Chair, if it would be helpful, I will phone Councillor Keel and Councillor King to see if they're having any technical issues and whether they need any help.
Good idea, thank you. We'll wait to hear from you.
Chair, just to let you know that Councillor Keel is on answer phone, so I assume she is trying to join us, but she's not available to talk to, unfortunately. And we've just asked IT to contact Councillor King, who is struggling to get into the meeting, so hopefully he may join us very shortly.
Thank you. We'll give it a couple more minutes. Literally 2 more.
Excuse me, do you mind me? It's Angela speaking.
Carry on.
I'm not sure if it's appropriate at the moment while we're just waiting. I quite often with these online meetings, I don't know who else is on the meeting and I don't know everybody. Is it appropriate for people to introduce themselves, or do I just find out when I get minutes or...
Your little square box with the arrow down at the bottom right-hand corner of it, on your left-hand side below, if you touch on that, it gives you a list of who is on with us, a full list, and usually their title and their job.
Hi, John. It just says the names. It doesn't actually say who.
Right. Well, there's a lot of J's, MWC, WJH, RS, and C and D, and most of those are members of staff.
That's fine. I'm just still guessing who, what job is.
Well, you've been around a while. You get to understand who is doing what and whatever, and what they're about. And usually they're brought in at some point during the meeting, and then it all becomes as clear as day. Up to that point, you as you say, you're sometimes wondering who it is that's joined in with us. But to get in, they have to have an invite and that coding. Otherwise, they can't see what you see. It's fairly simple in a sense. That reassures you that nobody's listening, that shouldn't, except for the one that's on where the recording's going. That's in public domain.
Just, I don't know everyone who, that's all. Not to worry. Thank you.
Okay, well, I'll ask for Will to send you a list of who's who that's attended tonight and what their job description is, if you would please, Will, and then you'll have it in black and white. Because I'm probably sure that if you're saying that, some others are thinking it as well. I'm getting a nod from several. Okay, Tracy.
Chair, can we just check? Is that Councillor Keel on the phone now?
Okay.
Councillor Keel, is that you? Are you with us?
It's Councillor Braxton who's on the phone.
Oh, okay.
Hello.
Hello.
Hello. Hello, it's Councillor Braxton. I've just been kicked out of my internet, so I'm attending on phone.
Rightio.
Okay.
Chair, it looks like it may be a little while before Councillor King is able to join us, so I might suggest you may wish to start the meeting and he can join as soon as we can get him online.
Thank you. We'll proceed then, ever so gently, I think. And it's possibly something that we can look at as a scrutiny committee about the connectivity availability, not only for members, but for members of the public as well, with internet in their own homes, because I think it's going to become a much bigger issue for connectivity for people and finding decent strength internet as well. Something I know the MP for the area is keen to progress, but it doesn't seem to be much progress being made from central government to assist us in that drive. So something probably we can look at as a grouping in the not too distant future and see if there's anything we can do to put a pressure on and where to put the pressure on. Food for thought for members. Okay, we'll go for the agenda then. I've been to apologies for absence. Minutes of the last meeting held on the 22nd of October 2020. I hope that all members have had a copy of this document in your minutes for tonight. And pages 3 to 8 on our agenda. That's all fairly straightforward of that bit. I haven't seen anything there that is glaringly obvious for me to say, oh, that's not quite right. But have any of you? I'll say that as a no then. Urgent business. I'm going to bring one urgent business forward, if I may, at this particular time.
Sorry, Chair. Do those minutes need moving and seconding?
Absolutely. Thank you, Will. I'm trying to jam on too fast because of a slow start. Excuse me. Yes, I'll move them from the chair. Have I got a seconder for them, please, to be accepted?
I'm happy to second them, John.
Thank you very much. We'll go for a vote then for all those in favour, please. A raise of a hand should suffice at the moment, I think. And if you're not on view, can you just say yes or no, or abstain?
Would it be easier if I did a roll call, Chair?
It might be because
Okay.
I've only got so many hands that I can see.
Okay, so if you can indicate for or against, please. Councillor Brackstone?
For.
Thank you. Councillor Cousins?
For.
Councillor Garbutt-Moore?
For.
Councillor Middleton?
For.
Councillor Oxley?
For.
Thank you. Councillor Rain?
For.
Councillor Raper?
For.
And Councillor Wass?
Abstain, I was absent.
Okay. That's
Okay.
7 for and 1 abstention, Chair.
Thank you. Next on the list is urgent business. As I say, we're going to bring forward one item for this is about a call-in that was asked for by 3 members. We have some latest news on this particular aspect, and we have officers available if anybody wishes to say anything. But from what I understand, this is not a valid call-in because it was an urgent item onto the P&R agenda, and you cannot call in, so far as our rules and regulations in the Constitution are concerned, call in an urgent item from such a committee.
Can I speak, please?
Yes, you
Excuse
may.
me, Chair. Thank you very much. Yes, I was just really, I believe that we should be talking about this evening, and I know that people are saying that the call-in has been deemed as being valid, but just because it was under urgent, I mean, it was under urgent because it was late. So there are 3 people here who would like that call-in to be discussed, and we are the scrutiny, we are overview and scrutiny. And I feel it's unacceptable if we don't discuss that this evening.
Right, well, I hear what you're saying, but I know what I've been told by officers who are very, very well versed in this sort of thing. Councillor Middleton, you want to make a comment?
Yeah, I'd agree with Councillor Brackstone. I think it needs looking at, and I'd question you saying that we're not allowed to do that because of the urgency. It's a lot of money, and I do think we need to look at it.
In that case, I think I'd better bring in the officer and explain to everybody what has been said to me earlier on today, and so I can impart that knowledge with all of you, that it's not a valid call-in. And so if it's not a valid call-in as such, we are not able to talk about it. So,
excuse me, Chair. There are quite a few councillors now who have indicated that they would like to talk about it. There's myself, there's Councillor Middleton,
that might be the case,
Wass,
but it might be the
Cousins.
case that you have a few people who are interested. But I have to take what the legal advice is, and I will like to, at this particular moment, to bring in the officer. If you don't mind. So, have we got our legal team officer in,
yes,
please?
Good evening, everyone. My name's Jody Townsend. I'm interim deputy monitoring officer. I've had the joys of starting at Ryedale Council this week.
Thank you. Carry on.
Yes, so in regard to the matter, the Constitution states that call-in procedure, as set out in the Constitution, shall not apply where the decision being taken by the Policy and Resources Committee is urgent. Now, obviously, as we know, that decision was taken under urgent item at Policy and Resources Committee. And also, obviously, there is an urgency due to the LGR timeframe in relation to that decision. Now, the reason I believe the Chair has still brought this up on the agenda this evening, and please correct me if I'm wrong here, Chair, is that we don't wish to stifle debate or prevent any clarity on those points that were raised in the call-in itself. So although the call-in is not valid under our constitution, the purpose of you bringing it up under this item is to make sure that those points raised in the calling have an opportunity to have answers provided to them. Louise is here this evening, who can hopefully provide some further information in regards to those points. And a note was sent out a little earlier from myself that hopefully again included that information in regards to those key points raised in the call-in. In addition, I would also like to remind members that there is a LGR engagement session on the 25th of November, where there will be a further opportunity, obviously, to put questions and to discuss LGR in more detail.
Am I right in thinking that also this would come into the next full council as a decision, and again, members have the opportunity to say and put their thoughts forward there?
That is correct, Chair. As an urgent item, it will go to the next subsequent meeting of full council as well. Correct.
Thank you.
Can I speak, please?
Yes, carry on.
Yeah. Thank you. Yes, I would just like to say that I think this is really a matter of transparency. You know, this is about taxpayers' money, and the people of Ryedale need to be aware of where their taxes are going. You know, this should be discussed in an open forum.
It was at P&R.
Yeah, I'm afraid, yes, it was, but it was rather rushed through, wasn't it? The members weren't given the correct amount of time, or any time indeed, to be able to consider what was put before them. Because as Councillor Clark quite rightly points out on the tape, I think if you listen back to it, of the recording of the meeting, that this wasn't an urgent item, it was a late item. People knew about this, or certainly the council knew about this and had information about this. That the members weren't given until very late in the day. So how could they make a fair decision?
I would have to go and look at the...
an informed decision, rather.
Well, it's an informed decision. Yes, I'd have to go and look at the transcript again, but I'm pretty sure I remember it being brought forward as an urgent item, and I'm pretty sure members were saying that during the debate.
But just because it's an urgent item, it doesn't mean it shouldn't be done properly.
Well, that's what I'm trying to do now, properly. It's not. It's been ruled as not a valid call-in by officers who are tasked with keeping us on the straight and narrow so that we stay legal and do our job properly as a scrutiny committee. I can't find fault with the points being put to me today by Jodie, that this is not a valid situation, and I am reluctant to let it progress any further, because the arguments can be put forward at another time in a bigger debate with all members present, not just a few.
Well, Chair, could I just suggest that this item has been labelled as urgent to stifle any challenges that might have been made about this decision?
Is that an opinion or a comment?
That is my opinion, yes, but I would like that quite clearly on record.
Okay, well, it's on record now. I'm sure
that there will be other councillors who will agree with me.
I'm certain that there are. But
it's a shame that we can't hear from them, isn't it, Chair?
As chairman, I've been given information that says that it is not a valid call-in. Do you want to come back at all, Jodie?
Yeah, if I can. I was going to say, judging by the content of our constitution, I said the item was considered under the urgent item requirements at P&R. Therefore, it is judged as an urgent item. However, there are opportunities for those points still to be discussed. As said, as an urgent item, the Constitution ensures, therefore, that it goes to the subsequent council meeting to ensure that further debate on that matter can still continue. And that is definitely the case for this item. The question is really about whether it, like I said, it meets the call-in criteria. According to the Ryedale Constitution, it does not. However, I believe the purpose of still having it on the agenda this evening was to utilise the fact that you happen to have this scrutiny meeting tonight, and that you wanted to make sure that those points raised in the call-in, that there was an opportunity for answers to be given at this initial stage. There is then obviously that further opportunity at the LGR engagement session for members on the 25th of November, as well as council, for even more discussion and for more another opportunity for questions. This is specifically in regards to the call-in procedure. The Constitution does state under that circumstance that it is not valid.
Well, excuse me then, Chair. Could I would like to move that this matter is sent back to P&R for their reconsideration in light of new information that has been received. Could I get a seconder?
Yes, I'll second that. Councillor Wass.
Can I just come in there, Chair?
Please.
For such a motion for such a move to be valid, that would obviously have to be within the powers of the committee to be able to do that. They could do that, obviously, if this was a valid call-in. However, in this circumstance, it is not. It is therefore, as I repeat, going to go to council. I think the thing members need to think about here is the call-in procedure and what it's there for. If something is called in, then you are under the Local Government Act pausing that decision. That decision can no longer be implemented until that call-in request has then been considered, and then if call-in request requires it to go back to the decision-making body or to full council for further consideration, it would not be able to be implemented until that consideration had taken place. Now, that time period would take us already up to just about where the next full council meeting already is going to be. Now, Louise is also here this evening, and perhaps she can answer some of the points raised in the call-in, which I'm hoping will provide a bit of clarity and make members fully aware of the reasons for the £49,000 level that was approved at P&R, and for the spend to date, and the fact that all councils should be looking to contribute to this at a similar level. And I would hope that those kind of points would appease some of members' concerns.
Thank you for that. I've got 3 hands raised at the present time, but I think before anybody else is invited to speak at the moment, I would like to hear from Louise as well. Are you there, Louise?
I am, yes, Chair.
Would you like to give a rundown as to what the situation is, please, from your point of view?
Yes, Chair, of course. So the question, I believe, in the call-in, so if I try to answer members' questions, was that the amount of money, or the fact of asking for a budget for the second phase of the LGR work, so the production of full proposals, was not on the agenda for P&R. So councillors have raised that as a concern. So if I address that first. It is our normal practice, as councillors will be aware, to try wherever possible, and it usually is possible, to get agendas to council members, to committee members, 5 clear days in advance of that committee. And we did do so for P&R. That meant that the P&R agenda and papers went out on the 4th of November at 16:53. At that point, Council had not yet met and voted to submit any proposals to government. That didn't happen until the evening after. So that happened on the 5th of November, and that discussion continued into the evening. So at that point of issuing the P&R papers, we did not know the will of Council. We did not know whether or not Council would decide to submit proposals, and obviously the second recommendation was to give the authority to the Chief Executive to submit not only the outline but the final proposals by the 9th of December. This expenditure was in relation to the final proposals. And since we didn't know if that was going forward, it wasn't really appropriate for us. It was premature for us to put that into the P&R agenda. So consequently, papers had gone out already for P&R. Then council met. Then council made a decision to submit proposals and take final proposals to government. And at that point, we knew we would need to go to the first available committee to request a budget for that to happen. That committee was P&R. Councillors have rightly said and raised a concern that that paper did not reach them till late. So I would submit it was urgent because we did need to know that we could make our financial contribution to that second wave of proposals, the full proposals. But it was also late. So I think both things hold true. And for that, I apologise to the P&R committee. I would say that I would have liked to get that report to P&R committee members the day before. Unfortunately, we are where we are with lots of COVID responsibilities at this point in time. Some people off sick, and that is meaning that some of us are having to do lots of things that fill in the gaps. And unfortunately, that was the case for me that week. And I wasn't able to get the report to P&R on the Wednesday as I would have hoped. It went out on the Thursday. In light of the fact that it was not only urgent but late, the Democratic team did try to make contact with all committee members by telephone to alert them to the fact that there was something that had been circulated for their attention so that they were aware of it and had the maximum time possible to be able to respond. So I would repeat my apology that it was a day later than I had hoped to be able to prepare it. And that was simply due to the fact that we are a little stretched at this time. That is an excuse, and I would not fall back on it, but unfortunately that was the reality. Nevertheless, I would still maintain that the papers could not really have been prepared a week in advance or in time for the P&R agenda, because at that point we simply hadn't got the decision in place from which this paper requesting a budget was a natural consequence. I hope that answers the question in the call-in.
Thank you. Thank you very much. I have three raised hands. I'll take them from Councillor Oxley. Did you want to speak, please?
I've lowered my hand, Chair. I think.
Oh, you have.
I think I was simply trying to understand, but I think I do now.
Thank you.
To me, the call-in is invalid. We can discuss it all we want, but it's still an invalid call-in. So the discussion can take place, but it won't affect anything.
Okay, thank you. Councillor Rain.
Sorry. I thank Louise for that information, and I do totally understand. I think with everything, unfortunately, I just feel the whole of this process, the government pushing it forward, as I've said before at a meeting during middle of a pandemic, is unbelievable. I do understand if that's the rules as far as the call-in and so on, but I do feel our overview and scrutiny should be been able to look at it and everything. I just want my point of view put forward, and I'll lower my hand. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Wass.
Thank you, Chair. Thank you, Louise, for your explanation. And all along, you know, I think we've all been saying that why is this going through at this moment in time when there are much more pressing things going on in our society? And as we've just had emails recently about the rise in COVID in this area, and we're looking at dividing rather than any other thing, you know, whichever way it's going to go. I don't think we're here really worrying about what the options are going to be in terms of the final decisions and how things are going to be divided. I think that's probably a fait accompli. But at the end of the day, we're here, as Councillor Braxton and Councillor Middleton have intimated, that it's about transparency. It's about serving the ratepayers, the taxpayers of this area. We are paying more than anybody else for this survey and pushing it through. And, you know, I hear what you've been saying, but that these are kind of like excuses, I feel, for us not being prepared. And if we're not prepared, then how can we make valued decisions and judgments for the people that we're representing? This is, a worry to me, and that there are too many questions still being asked, from councillors who have got a lot more experience than I have, and probably a bit more wherewithal as well with protocol. But I just feel as though this is not democratically serving our area at all. And, to come up with things like we're a day late with this, with that, with the other areas had their meetings and were briefed well in advance. This means we could actually call anything urgent and not actually pass it through. So our constitution needs to be looked at, because there is something wrong with the integrity of our constitution in that respect. And I think we should look at this as a committee. That is what we're here to do. It's not just to bypass everything. Otherwise, you may as well ask why function as a committee.
Chair, may I just make a point on a matter of clarity on what Councillor Ross said? Thank you, Councillor Ross. You said in your comment that we are paying more than other councils, and I just thought it was important to clarify that point, because we are not. So I think perhaps the confusion is around the fact that we asked for a budget of £49,000. That's a budget that Ryedale District Council holds. We haven't given it to anybody else. We hold it. The reason for asking that budget was because at the time when we put the report together, we were not completely certain what the amount would be. We felt that it would be, we thought it would be £15,000, but there might be a few things that came up in the course of producing the proposals that might be a little bit extra than that. Not a lot. And as I said in P&R at the time, I expected to be very comfortably within the budget that they put forward. But let me be absolutely clear on this point. We hold that budget of 49,000. I do not expect to spend 49,000. We have only spent 15,000. That is the same as the other councils in the process. We have not spent the rest. That 34 sits with us. I don't anticipate that we will need it. It's there in case we do, but the likelihood is we will not, and it will be returned to reserves. So just to be clear on the point, we are not paying any more than any of the other councils in the process, and nor would we. So in the unlikely, and I say it's unlikely because that is the best of my belief, event that there should be some unexpected cost crop up before the end of this process of the 9th of December, that amount of money would be equally charged to all the 6 councils in the process. So let's say, for example, and as I say, I don't expect this to happen, let's say there was an additional need for some more research, cost £6,000. That would be divided up through the 6 councils. They would each receive an invoice for £1,000, and we would pay that from the budget that we hold, the same as all the other councils in the process. So we went into this on the understanding that we would not be paying more than anyone else. We haven't paid more than anyone else, and we won't pay more than anyone else. So I just wanted to make that point clear, because it was mentioned in the call-in, and so to answer that, I felt it was important to make that point now. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Louise. Very much appreciated. Councillor Wass, you put your hand up again.
Just to come back on what Louise was saying. So you're saying the 15,000 to 49,000 just in case. It's a lot of money really floating around for just in case. And in terms of, the urgency, Richmond Council knew about this on the 3rd of November, before our P&R meetings. So where's the clarity on this? That's, and on our call-in, we put down about proportionality, and it's clear that not everybody is paying the same. And that's not proportionality.
Everyone is paying the same, councillor, exactly the same. That was the point of my explanation. You're right, different councils have different approaches to things. We took the view that it was not appropriate for us to ask for a budget for something for which council had not agreed their position. So we felt it was been not right to ask council to set a budget if they hadn't yet determined whether they wanted to go ahead with proposals at all. So Richmondshire, I can't answer for them on their decision-making process. Clearly, they decided to do it differently, but that was our view. It was not in any way an attempt to try and put pressure on any decision or anything of that sort. We simply felt it was appropriate that we did not ask for a budget for something that council had not yet agreed.
Thank you, Louise. And we must inform members here that all the district councils in the North Yorkshire area are running on different timescales as to when their meetings are, and that hasn't helped this situation either, because apparently on this particular issue we were last in the queue to come to a decision, and that was one of the things that caused some urgency among staff to get the job done. And I must remind members that all our staff are heavily involved in a pandemic, and the reaction to that on behalf of our constituents. And I know that some members of staff are doing 12-hour days, and consecutive 12-hour days, I must emphasise. And so they have my undying gratitude for their tenacity and hard work. And I think that we shouldn't underestimate or demean their efforts because of a time scale that's not within their control, and at the moment this isn't within our control of the time scale. Tracy, you've got your hand up again.
I have, yes. Thank you, Louise. I think you've just hit the nail on the head with this. Information was known before we voted on whether to go forward with this. So there was already worries about how much money had been spent. And I think if council would have been informed of this extra money at that time, the vote may have gone a very different way, which is perhaps why it wasn't brought up. So I think for democracy, I think it may have failed a bit if we're not allowed to call it in.
I have my hand raised as well, Chair.
Carry on. It didn't come up on my screen. Carry on.
I'm on the phone, Chair.
Yes. You can press the button to bring it up. Anyway, bring it on.
Yes, Chair. Just as you quite rightly pointed out there, you said that Ryedale were the last in the queue, which their meetings came last. So therefore, why didn't we have all the information put very clearly, or why didn't the PNR committee have all the information there for them to make an informed decision if we were the last? If our meeting was going to be the last?
I have no idea, actually, on that. You've flummoxed me as for an answer on that specific point. But our officers are working on timelines that are not the same as the timelines for other authorities. We do not disseminate this information between authorities to other authorities. I wouldn't have thought. Even on the commonality of this particular one with a joint approach. They have their system and we have ours. And I presume that that's the only reason why the synchronisation of this was not coterminous. Councillor Oxley, your hand's up again.
Yes, Chair. Can you hear me? Sorry.
Yes.
Yeah, sorry. Can we stop? Louise just explained this. Can we stop talking about extra money? We haven't spent extra money compared to anybody else. That's been clearly explained. We put the same in as everybody else. And I think it's a bit disingenuous to keep referring now to extra money. That is still with us. It's not with anybody else. Clearly, how we've got here, is for debate, and that's what we're discussing now. At the end of the day, we have been advised this is invalid calling, and therefore cannot do anything in terms of that. So I'm nice that people are expressing opinions, good that the opinions and the thoughts are getting out there, but at the end of the day, if the Constitution says this is invalid calling, then it's an invalid calling. And as a past chairman of the council, you'd expect me to want to defend the Constitution.
Absolutely. Thank you for that, Will. Anybody else?
Would you like me to try and answer the councillor's point?
Yes, if you would, please, Louise.
I will try and answer it. It may not be an answer to your satisfaction, but I will just try and clarify. So I think it's true to say that at the point of the council meeting, we knew that if, and it was an if, council voted to submit proposals and take final proposals forward, there would be a level of expenditure associated with that, most likely. We did not know how much that would be. Council then voted to submit proposals, and we then put in a budget to allow for the fact that we could make a best guess at that point about how much we would need, but there might be some more, and we wanted to allow for that because we wouldn't have chance to come back to a committee to ask for an uplift if we hadn't got the amount right. So I take the councillor's point that 49,000 is a considerable sum. I'm not unaware of that, but I'd reiterate the point. I don't expect to use that amount of money, and in fact we have not, and the indication is now that we will not. After Policy and Resources voted to give a budget, the following day there was a meeting of chief executives where the finances were discussed. I should be clear about the fact that Scarborough Borough Council is holding the kitty, as it were. They are holding the collective pot from which the expenditure on LGR is being made. And because we don't hold it at Ryedale District Council, we are dependent on Scarborough Borough Council making information available to us. So it's not absolutely at our fingertips all of the time. We have to ask and we have to get information back, and that's causing a little bit of delay compared to if we perhaps were banking it ourselves and therefore would have that available on our systems. So I think it's true to say that we were aware there would be some level of expenditure, but we didn't know how much that would be. That was why the request to P&R was not for an explicit amount of money. It was for a budget which we could allocate if we needed to. It wasn't until the day after P&R on the 13th that we became aware that actually the £15,000 that P&R, that we had other councils had approved, would be likely the only amount of money that we would need to pay on this. So we're not expecting there to be any more at this point in time unless something very unexpected happens. So we weren't aware of that until the 13th. Over the weekend, after that meeting, a couple of councillors did contact and say, how come we've got a budget of 49 and other people seem to have committed 15? We were able to clarify at that point, and that clarification did in fact go around all councillors, that yeah, we have a budget, but now we've paid 15 and we don't expect to pay anything further on that. So I just thought it was important to know that we weren't able to give you an exact amount of money, and in fact that's still the position, but we are pretty clear now that we will not need anything more than the 15 that's been committed. Sorry, thank you, Chair.
Chair, you're on mute at the moment.
Councillor Wass, your hand is up.
Yeah, thank you, Chair. Just to ask a point that Councillor Oxley raised, and this is just for my naive clarification. Maybe Louise could answer it, or the legal reps that we have in tonight. But if something is worked around the Constitution, then is it okay to present an item as urgent when it was clearly not urgent? It was just knowingly delayed.
Well, I don't know about knowingly delayed, but
so I would say it was not knowingly delayed. It was urgent because we couldn't make the decision until after the council had made its decision on Thursday. That was after P&R papers had been submitted already to councillors in the normal timing of events. It was also urgent because the proposals need to be produced and with government by the 9th of December. We need to know whether or not we can play a part in that process. That is partly dependent on us having a budget to make our contribution. Council had indicated through its vote that it intended us to submit proposals on the 9th of December. Therefore, we needed to know urgently that we had the money to do so that we could participate fully in the production of those proposals prior to the 9th. So I certainly did not knowingly delay anything, nor would I have done so. I've expressed my apologies for the fact I would have liked to do it quicker, but I certainly did not intend to delay anything, nor would I. In fact, my intention was to get it to councillors as quickly as I possibly could.
Thank you, Louise. Anybody else want to say anything? Because otherwise I'm going to put this one to bed and say we carry on with the agenda. Okay.
Chair, can I just remind everyone that there is a members' engagement session on LGR on the 25th of November, and the P&R urgent item will be considered at council. So it is not the end of opportunity to have that democratic discussion.
Absolutely.
And as a former head of scrutiny and employee of the Centre for Public Scrutiny, it does not fill any of us with joy to recommend that a call-in is not valid. However, that is what our constitution states. So would happily welcome conversations of any councillors about ways to improve our constitution and to make sure we're reflecting not just the Local Government Act 2000, but also those principles that were laid out for application of call-in and the overview scrutiny process.
Well, thank you for that, Jodie. It certainly made me realise I need to reread my constitution as well. Angela, Councillor Wren, sorry, you've got your hand
up. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Oh, I just want to mention about that 25th of November meeting because I do know that there's Malton Town Council meeting and there's a little bit of upset because the meeting's been put on when it is and at the time that it is. I myself cannot attend the meeting, and I do know there's quite a few other councillors, and I think perhaps again here we go with this having to get things fit in because of the way it's all been pushed forward and the rush that everybody, like Louise, everyone that's trying to do to get on with it. I just think it's just unbelievable that it's still happening. So I just want to make a point of that meeting and the fact that I know not everyone can attend. Thank you.
Thank you. Anybody else? No.
Chair, just before we carry on, I think Councillor Watt, I think you're sharing your screen at the moment. Is it possible to just flick it back? It's the square with the cross in, if you press that button. No, that's it.
Ah, yes, it is. Oh, I'll come back onto one screen again.
Thank you.
It's across the bottom.
Sorry about that.
Okay. No. We're still learning how we have to deal with this technology. Declarations of interest is the next item on the agenda. Has anyone got a declaration of interest on the items that's in front of us this evening?
No raised hands, Chair.
Sorry, sorry, it's me. I moved my hand. Sorry, I was late.
It's okay, look. Carry on.
I just I feel that the declaration of interest for me is everyone active, and that's purely just my my role as principal of Kirkham Henry, and I'd rather not comment on it.
I fully understood. You've got that as a long-standing declaration, and I've known about it from day one that you've been here now. I'll have to declare that I've come to some of your performances, so that won't be a problem.
Thank you.
Right, go over the page. Chair announcements. Well, at this particular point, I haven't any specific announcement to make, but I've got a plea for future items for this committee to investigate. Some items of topics that have emerge from tonight might be in the offing now. But is there anything else any member has a bee in the bonnet about that we could possibly be useful in pursuing as a corporate body to get things moving along in a more swift and timely fashion, or put a pressure on in various areas as we can to assist with the good governance and the well-being of our residents. I'll leave that one open. I don't expect it to come flooding back at me in this instance, but send me an email with any ideas or thoughts, please. Item 6.
Yeah, sorry, before I have got my hand raised, I think it's obvious.
Yes, I have. Sorry, I missed it.
I just want to remind you that I did make a couple of suggestions at the last meeting, and they are already in the minutes from the previous meeting, so I hope that they will still be taken.
I'm looking for more. Thank you, Councillor Oxley. Item 6 is the report of everyone active, the delivery of the leisure contract for Ryedale, pages 9 to 48 in our pack this evening. We have members of everyone active with us, and would you like to come in, Martin, and tell us a little bit about what's done, and then we'll throw it up to members to put questions if they have any.
Yes, thank you, Chair. Good evening. I wasn't sure if Philip wanted to say anything first before I started.
I haven't bothered either. Which of one of you goes first?
If it's okay with the Chair, Martin, please go ahead.
Okay, good. Everyone active have managed the facilities in for Ryedale District Council since October 2014. We're delighted to be managing the facilities, and each year we come to the Overview and Scrutiny Committee. We do a written report, which I think is fairly detailed, but we're always happy to have comments about additional information you require through the officers. That isn't a problem. We summarise that with a short presentation. We are happy to take questions through the chair at the end on any topic you'd like. And in addition, if you would like a tour of the facilities to see behind the scenes or see further how we operate, then we are more than happy to do that at any point as well. And then probably before we start the presentation, I've got John Bird with me, who's the General Manager for our Ryedale contract, and he's on the contract on a daily basis. And my role as the area manager for Everyone Active, I manage 5 contracts in the North East. And for clarity, just for everybody, my name's Martin Miles. So if we crack on, I'll see if we can share the presentation.
Please do.
There we go. John, can you see that?
Certainly can.
You can, right. Okay, so presentation shouldn't take more than about 10 minutes, but I think due to the fact we're on Teams, it will be easier for us to take questions at the end. So we'll move swiftly forward to the first bit, which is site improvements and maintenance, which John's going to talk through.
So during the last financial year, we've worked quite hard to maintain the facilities. Obviously, the facilities we have in Ryedale are slightly old, but they're really good quality facilities. At Derwent, we've spent some money on pool repairs, so we have a historic leak which still remains unidentified, but we've been patchworking to keep that one going. And we spent significant money on repairing the lift, so that is now suitable for the future. We've got another 5 to 10 years out of that piece of equipment. And we worked with Joss, who was our previous client officer, to introduce some accessible friendly equipment, and we purchased a hand bike for the gym to help make the facility at Derwent slightly more appealing to all of the community. In Ryedale Summer Fitness Centre in Pickering, we spent significant money on air handling upgrades, which keeps the pool hall and change rooms warm, as well as a partial refurb of our CHP unit, which is our combined heat and power, to help with our environmental objectives. And we purchased a deal of 10,000 hours per year usage for that. Something to be mindful of at Pickering was in January 2020, we had a ceiling collapse, which resulted in partial facility closure for a number of weeks until we had that repaired. The repair is being completed now, and the facility is
is significantly better than any gym around here, including the likes of Scarborough and Middlesbrough, which is fantastic. And Ryedale Sports Centre, we have a brilliant working relationship with the acting head of school, and we refurbished the gym with £10,000 worth of new equipment, as well as a bit of an upgrade, a paint, and we introduced a new virtual cycling studio, so we've managed to increase the capacity and move to the 21st century with some of the class delivery. In terms of environmental, we've been working through our IOS 14001 accreditations, and we've mapped some detail into how we align with Ryedale District Council's environmental objectives to reduce, reuse and recycle. I'll not go through everything we've done. It's all on page 9 for you on how we've adapted, changed to digital platforms, reduced the amount of energy consumption and recycled more using Ryedale District Council's waste management service. And I'll hand over to Martin for the next slide, please.
So the next slide is attendance. And these are the attendance figures, the ones we're looking on the right-hand side, April 19 to March 20. The first bit takes us back to April 16. We obviously started the contract before then. You can see, unsurprisingly, probably that the actual attendance figures are fairly stable across those 4 years that we've got. But as you can see, Ryedale Swim and Fitness Centre is by far the busiest facility, even though Pickering has got a smaller population than Norton and Moulton, mainly due to the fact the gym is much bigger and much more suitable than the gym at Derwent. We have got flumes in the pool there, as I'm sure councillors will know, and therefore that attracts the tourist trade during the summer. Obviously not this summer. And in addition, we've got a bigger and stronger swimming club there that have more pool time as well. So all that adds to the attendance figures. Derwent, considering that the facility is exceptionally compact, I think does fairly well. But the gym, if you've been, is compromised by the size of the facility, and particularly compromised due to social distancing in there in the current COVID regulations. Ryedale Sports Centre, again, does fairly well. Obviously, there's limited opening times because obviously the school have that during term time and during school times. But with the changes that John has just talked through, we're hoping then to push on with those figures as well. So I'll hand you over to John, who's going to talk about the development work we've been doing.
So last year was really successful for Ryedale. It was the first year we had a succinct and fluid management team. Obviously, the year before we reported on how we changed our management structure slightly and replaced it with myself and Martin. So last year was the first year of getting our feet under the table and really engaging properly. We launched the Ryedale District Sports Awards, which was a great hit. We did that in February, and I'm pleased that Philip and Joss attended on behalf of the council. We secured local funding and local support from businesses and allowed us to showcase the very best talent that we have in Ryedale. It is often quite hidden and unknown. We have a hammer thrower who's on an Olympic pathway that lives in Moulton. So it really allowed us to showcase the sports that we don't accommodate, but how we can support instead. And that was well attended with over 150 people and was the summary of our 12-month club development plan. So as part of our club development plan, we met in April 2019 with clubs and local providers to see what support they needed. All of that ranged from volunteer recruitment to showcasing facilities and showcasing the athletes, which we worked alongside and did. Obviously, we were supposed to extend that scheme for another 18 months. We were going to produce another plan, and COVID's got in the way, but we are slowly rebuilding that again, which is great news. The Escape Pain and GP Referral Programme is Escape Pain's in partnership with North Yorkshire Sport through the Health Innovation Network, and is a funded programme we secured funding for to allow us to deliver a specific programme for people with back pain, which with the demographics and the clients we work with in Ryedale was a great hit, very well received, and we got continuation funding, which was due to start in April and has been held off until April 2021 instead. So it's great that we've still got that. And with Ryedale, we have very limited number of colleagues. We work on a very lean business model, but our colleagues are at the heart of what we do. We've invested significant sums of money in upskilling through swimming development, CPD training, anaphylaxis updates, and our duty manager team are going through, started prior to lockdown, the National Pools Supervisors qualification, which is industry recognised, to show that our duty managers are qualified duty managers and the best that we can possibly have. And in the words of Chris Whitty, can we have the next slide, please?
You had to get that in, John. Health and safety. We report on accidents per 10,000 visits, so we can benchmark across different leisure facilities. Our standard is to make sure we have less than 5 accidents per 10,000 visits. Ideally, we would like 0, but clearly they are accidents and they don't mean to happen. You can see here that we've had a slight reduction across those facilities from the previous year. And we're doing particularly well at Ryedale Pool at 1.9 and Derwent at 0.9 is absolutely excellent for a facility that has got a swimming pool, because obviously water is slippy. Ryedale Sports Centre 5.9 is slightly higher. That's due to the nature of the activities. We have activities there in the sports hall that are have slightly more risk, I would suggest. So, for example, roller skating on a Saturday evening is slightly more risky. We have to manage that, but it isn't something we should stop. And then down the bottom, we have an annual internal health and safety audit. As you can see there, the scores are close to 100. 100 obviously is the target, and we're all in the 99 to 98%. We take the management of the facilities from a health and safety perspective extremely seriously, and if anyone would like a tour or some further information on how we manage health and safety, then we're more than happy to do that. I'll hand you over to John for customer feedback.
So throughout the year, we regularly engage with our customers and prospects through email marketing shots to get their customer feedback. Our teams at site are also KPI'd to gather positive and negative feedback to allow us to improve the facilities. We had a number of responses throughout the year, and we are seeing a steady trend into the more positive comments. It's very hard as an industry for us to get the positive comments. People obviously, when they've had a bad experience, are straight to the complaint, but we don't really generally get it was a lovely experience, my family enjoyed it. However, this year we've managed to get that. So we've enhanced the family experience. We introduced some new sessions, and we introduced some new equipment to allow families to have better access to the facilities. During the summer, that was well used by tourist trades, which obviously helps us to support the business. But the local communities, especially at Malton and Norton, obviously they get to use it all the time, which is great. We made some changes to pool timetabling as a result of feedback from the customers, where they wanted more lane swimming, less of our corporate jargon. So we reduced it down to public, lane and family swimming to keep things as simple as possible. And that was really well received. And our colleagues, again, they are the life and soul of what we do. The community-based facilities we've got is very much, the colleagues who work day to day know every customer, they know everything about them. And that is the holistic approach that we're trying to adapt in Ryedale to help meet the needs of the health and wellbeing objectives. Obviously, we do get negative comments. Some of them are summarised. We had a lot after the roof or ceiling collapse in the free weights area. It couldn't really have happened at a worse time for us, mid-January, which is our busiest period. But thankfully, the officers in Ryedale Council worked really quickly with us, and we got that all replaced and repaired during the lockdown. So like I've said, the facility now is fantastic. Group exercise is always a challenge, not necessarily due to the delivery, but because of where we're based geographically, it's really hard to get new instructors. It's difficult to get new classes and anything off the ground because generally just of where we are. We do use the same 3 instructors, but upskilling them and keeping all of their ideas fresh is a challenge, and we acknowledge that. But the timetable is being reviewed regularly and we're changing the classes, so that's a negative that we've turned into a positive. And we always get complaints about pool temperature. Some of them are generally a mechanical fault. We have a lot of issue with scale. which requires us to change the heat exchangers every 2 years, which is a large task. But generally, the water quality is managed really well, and customers just feel that chill when you've come out of the pool into a warmer environment is generally what people experience. And I'll pass you over to Martin for the next slide.
So the last slide this evening for us, this is the future priorities and what we're currently working on. Obviously, currently we are shut, and we have been shut now in the last 8 months, we've been shut for 5 of them. So we are really hopeful that next 2 weeks today, we can reopen facilities again, assuming national government allows. So yeah, recovery from the challenges of operating within a socially distanced environment is clearly the #1 priority. Having said that, once we get over this period of time, which we undoubtedly will do at some stage, John will talk us through the development plans we've currently got.
Yeah, so the development plan, although it's slightly on hold at the moment, there is still a bit of work in the background. And we have gone very much on a market-led approach in Ryedale, to the sense that we have a health agenda, and we're very aware that, especially coming out of COVID, health and well-being of the communities is essential. So we're strengthening our GP referral scheme, which is currently really successful, but we're also working in partnership with our neighbouring borough council at Scarborough to have a Scarborough and Ryedale area covering care leavers, foster families and looked after children. Recently, just hot off the press, we're now working with Carers Resource, because that's a very untapped market which isn't under the corporate parenting responsibility guidance. So once all of them schemes are up, we're hoping to try and remove as many barriers as possible to get people in the facility and obviously help improve the health and well-being of the residents. The club and sport development is back on track, and as soon as we can get the clubs back in, which we've got pretty much all of them back from COVID now, and we want to really support them with financial support in sense of how they business plan as a club, volunteers, volunteer recruitment and general marketing for participants. Obviously, I think we're all aware of Ryedale with its geography. It's sometimes difficult to know what's happening, even up the road. So we're working alongside North Yorkshire Sport, who have a lot more experience in marketing of clubs, and we're pulling all of them resources together to try and help grow the clubs that we house in our facilities. Ryedale Swim and Fitness Centre relaunch. This was mainly off the back of the ceiling collapse. Obviously, between everyone active in Ryedale Council, there's been significant investment to bring that sustainable for the future. It is a fantastic facility. It's significantly nicer and more spacious than our other bigger facilities at Scarborough, and it is definitely something for the community which they should be proud of. It is their facility, and so we're going to really work hard to try and get the membership back and get more participants. And then ultimately, the entire objective for this coming year is going to be to try and have a more active Ryedale. Whether people are walking, swimming, coming to the gym, being with the family, we just need to, or want to help people do that little bit extra to help them out as well.
Thank you very much, John. I'm sure if I can stop sharing the presentation, then we should be back. We're back, aren't we? And then if I hand over to the chair, because I think questions through the chair might be easier for me to manage, Chair.
Thank you for that, gentlemen. Very much appreciated. Have any members wanting to ask any questions? Yes, John B. Oh, he's gone again.
Chair, Councillor Wass would like to speak.
Councillor Wass, yes, thank you.
Thank you, Chair. Couple of things, John. You mentioned in the presentation there you operate a lean business model, and I've been through the presentation earlier before you went through it there on the screen, and you mentioned, you know, colleagues being the life and soul of what you're putting together, and it's very communal. But I couldn't find anywhere with all the data that you've got there actually how many people you employ across the 3 centres, and what kind of structure have you got in terms of the management models, the staffing, and also what kind of contracts are they on? Are they on 0-hour contracts, or are they salaried? You know, what is the kind of demographic of that?
Yes,